As World War II reached its blistering zenith, a depleted and overextended Nazi Germany began to pin its hopes of victory on its secret superweapon programs. As such, the relentless ingenuity of German engineering gave birth to the Weltungswaffen initiative, which loosely translates to reprisal weapons. The program resulted in the creation of the V-1 flying bomb and the V-2 missile, the precursor to modern intercontinental ballistic missiles. The weapons were used to rain destruction over Britain and to inflict terror among the confident Allies, but the V-rockets had limited success in halting their ability to wage war. However, a secret V-weapon was already in the works, and if successful, it would far surpass the others in raw power. The V-3 was a massive 430-foot-long supercannon, capable of thrusting 150mm caliber shells, each weighing 140 kilograms at a rate of 600 shells a minute. Adolf Hitler's plan was to have 50 supercannons launching 3,000 rounds at London every day, and it was up to the Allies to stop the production of the world-shattering wonder weapon before it began its lethal barrage. An old idea. Back in the 19th century, American engineers toyed with the idea of creating a massively long cannon whose projectiles would be propelled by a sustained chain of detonations as they traveled along the gun barrel. Each detonation was meant to add thrust to the shell, achieving unparalleled speeds and ranges by the time it left the barrel. The design depicted a series of propellant stages positioned in intervals along the barrel to deliver extra acceleration. These stages were activated by the hot gases that pushed the projectile forward. Early experimentation, however, could never properly synchronize the subsequent detonations with the projectile's movement, leading to unintended explosions and collateral damage. In 1880, a prototype underwent testing at the Frankfurt Arsenal in Philadelphia, but was deemed unsuccessful. The projectile could not seal properly, causing the flash from the primary propellant charge to bypass it and ignite the secondary charges prematurely. As a result, the shell velocity was reduced instead of increased, and the idea was promptly abandoned in the US. Decades later, as World War I raged over the European continent, France was threatened by the fearsome Paris gun, a colossal 34-meter German siege weapon that could punish the French capital from over 75 miles. Horrified and enraged by the German weapon, the French military began planning and developing its own supercannon in 1918. French engineers revisited the idea first concocted by the Americans and modernized the design, creating a blueprint for an artillery weapon of unfathomable scale and power. But the need for the supercannon soon vanished with the retreat of the German armies and the end of the war, and the prototype phase of the project was indefinitely postponed. Little did the French know that their idea would soon be made a reality by the nation it was designed to keep at bay. A new design. 1 decade after the production of the French cannon was halted, a new conflict took France by storm. Amid the breakneck speed of the Wehrmacht invasion, the nation failed to secure or destroy its secret military schematics, and the designs of the long-range gun soon fell into the hands of the German troops. In 1942, August Kunders, the chief engineer of Rüchling Stahlwerk AG in Wetzlar, Germany, and developer of the revolutionary bunker-busting Rüchling shell, took notice of the patent. Kunders believed that the gradual acceleration of the shell, achieved by a series of small charges arranged along the barrel's length, could be a potential solution to the challenge of designing long-range guns. The word is, German engineers eventually revamped the concept of traditional guns and solved the decades-long problem of relying on a highly explosive charge by using electrically activated charges to eliminate premature ignition. With this new perspective, and using machinery already in use to produce 20mm tubes for the Flak 38 anti-aircraft guns, Kunders constructed a 20mm multi-chamber gun prototype at the Wetzlar plant. Initial testing showed encouraging results. However, to secure the support of the Ministry of Arms, Hermann Rüchling had to present Kunders' project to Albert Speer. The hook they used was that of a cannon capable of bombarding London from the Pas-de-Calais coastline. Once Speer was on board, he had to persuade Hitler to approve the ambitious and expensive venture. The Royal Air Force had recently bombed the Peenemünde Rocket Center, a massive testing facility for German missiles, and Hitler was eager to make the British pay. As Speer informed him of the V3 project, the Führer was more than happy to listen. Making the supercannon a reality. By August 17th, Hitler had approved the immediate construction of the gun, without any further testing or prototypes. Kunders began his massive endeavor by building a full-caliber gun at the Hillesleben Proving Ground near Magdeburg. But as 1943 drew to a close, he realized the project would be much more difficult to materialize than he previously anticipated, as he now faced a series of challenges in both implementing the gun's fundamental principles and developing a viable design for the shells it was intended to fire. Little by little, the undeterred engineer honed the design parameters and adjusted his gun accordingly. But even when everything was working as intended, the muzzle velocity was just over 1,000 meters per second, much less than they had promised Hitler, and not nearly enough to reach London from France. Germany then poured more money and engineers into the project, delegating the projectile issue to several German companies, which competed fiercely to develop an adequate shell for the massive cannon. Meanwhile, Kunders solved the pestering issue of obturation by inserting a sealing piston between the projectile and the initial propellant charge. This effectively prevented the flash from the charge from advancing beyond the projectile and resolved the challenge of managing the ignition of the secondary charges. By the end of 1943, everything appeared on track to build 50 supercannons to obliterate Britain from the French coast, and Major Bock of Festung Pionierstab 27 was tasked with finding a suitable site to position the V3 batteries. The location had to be within the operational range of the guns, but not so close to the channel that the facilities could be targeted by the Royal Navy's warships. The chosen site was a limestone hill near Mimoyec in northern France, which had a rock core suitable for excavating gun shafts. The place was named Visa and consisted of 2 parallel facilities, each with 5 drifts holding 50 HDP gun tubes. The plans were to have the first battery of 5 gun tubes ready by March of 1944. The clock was ticking, and Germany was not precisely winning the war. If they did not finish their guns as soon as possible, it might be too late to raze London into oblivion. The debacle. The urgency was overwhelming. As the construction of the Mimoyec facility was put into overdrive, Kunders oversaw a crucial series of trials held from May 20th to 24th, in which the colossal weapon shattered records with incredible ranges of up to 55 miles. Then, on July 4th, the Midroy gun took aim and unleashed 8 rounds, one of which traveled a formidable 59 miles. Even so, it fell short of the 120 miles needed to reach London. To make matters worse, disaster struck as the tests neared their climax. With a deafening roar, the gun burst, and the barrel shattered into pieces, putting an abrupt and fiery end to Kunders' ambitions. After the massive failure at Midroy, the Mimoyec project was scaled back from 5 guns to 3, and Hitler began doubting the capabilities of the wonder weapon. The question of whether the V3 would be able to reach London would remain unanswered, as the notorious RAF 617 Squadron, also known as Dam Busters, unleashed their 5,400-kilogram Tallboy bombs over Visa on July 6th, obliterating the site and rendering it completely inoperable. A final push. By the final months of 1944, a paranoid and shattered Hitler gave control of all the V-weapon programs to SS General Hans Kammler to defend Germany from the invading Allies. Kammler hastily built a last V3 supercannon placed in the hands of the Army Artillery Unit Artillerieabteilung 705 under Hauptmann Patzig. The battery was strategically positioned in a wooded ravine of the Ruwer River at Lempaden, Germany, around 8.1 miles southeast of Trier. Soon after, a second cannon started construction, and Kammler was ordered to aim both of them towards the recently liberated Luxembourg by December 30th. On that date, the V3 gun sprang into action with a flurry of warm-up rounds, followed by a rapid succession of 5 high-explosive shells. The shells were fired at an impressive velocity of approximately 3,070 feet per second. The second gun was also brought into action on January 11th, 1945, and by February 22nd, a total of 183 rounds had been fired, with a confirmed 44 hits in the urban area. But time had sealed the fate of the V3 supercannon. When American troops were just a few kilometers from the cannons, Kammler ordered his men to take them apart. The sites were abandoned, and the Americans seized the gun equipment. As with the remaining Vergeltungswaffen weapons, the V3 came too late to shift the tides of war in Germany's favor, remaining as an ineffective yet impressive show of German engineering. Thank you for watching Dark Docs. For more thrilling wartime stories into history's most fascinating weapons, click on your screen and check out our other Dark Documentaries channels. We publish new videos regularly, so hit the notification bell to be the first to watch them. Stay tuned.